Let me tell you something powerful right now. 2025 didn't show up to play games with you, and you can't afford to keep playing games with it. You've been waiting on a breakthrough, waiting on a blessing, waiting on somebody to believe in you. But God already gave you the breath in your lungs, the strength in your bones, and the vision in your soul. What are you waiting for? You don't need more time, you need more truth. You don't need more followers, you need more focus. And you don't need more approval because you owe it to you to rise, to build, and to walk in the purpose that heaven wrote on your heart. Purpose doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It doesn't sit still while you get over your fear. Purpose has an appointment with your destiny, and it's moving whether you get on board or not. Too many people are standing still, waiting for a perfect moment, when the truth is that purpose operates in motion. The longer you wait, the further away it seems, not because it left you, but because you stayed where you were when you should have moved. You don't get to schedule purpose on your calendar. It won't wait until you've healed, until you've earned more, until everyone claps for you. Purpose demands obedience over convenience. If you're looking for ease, you'll miss it every time. Purpose has a way of showing up disguised as discomfort, as pressure, as inconvenience. That's why so many people miss it. They're expecting it to feel like a vacation, but it feels more like a battlefield. People think they need more clarity before stepping into purpose. But clarity often comes after movement, not before it. When you move, you gain sight. When you act, the path starts to light up. But sitting still, praying without action, dreaming without discipline, it keeps you in the same cycle of waiting. You were never meant to wait your whole life for confirmation when the conviction was already planted deep in your heart. Purpose doesn't knock twice. It's a divine moment wrapped in a window of time. And if you hesitate too long, you miss the window. That's why so many live with regret. Not because they failed, but because they didn't try. They waited for someone else to co-sign what God already wrote into their soul. They waited for popular approval instead of trusting the private words spoken into their spirit. You can't keep pushing it off to the next season, the next month, the next Monday. If you keep saying later, you'll look up and realize you've built a life out of delays. Purpose was never waiting on time to be right. It was waiting on you to take yourself seriously. You already have enough inside you to start. Purpose isn't about perfection. It's about obedience, about responding to the pull inside that won't let you rest. People who walk in purpose didn't start fully prepared. They just stopped stalling. They stopped excusing their progress. They stopped blaming their background, their setbacks, and their past. They made a decision that even if it didn't feel easy, even if it felt unfamiliar, they were going to step. Every great assignment begins with a simple yes. And that yes changes everything, even if you're scared when you say it. The more you delay, the more doubt builds. And the more doubt builds, the more you question what was once clear. Doubt loves delay because it grows in the soil of inaction. That's why you have to stop negotiating with your own greatness. You already know what needs to be done. The challenge is not knowing, it's moving. You weren't designed to live in spiritual paralysis. You were created to walk boldly into the unknown with the confidence that you're not walking alone. When you refuse to act, you start to normalize disobedience. You begin to accept less, tolerate average, and settle for what was never meant for you. Purpose doesn't stay in places where fear is allowed to rule. You've been given everything you need to start, but you won't see the fullness of it until you move. The promise is on the other side of the push. The calling is confirmed in the process, not in the comfort zone. Comfort is one of the most seductive traps a person can fall into. It makes you feel safe, secure, and in control, but underneath that surface is a quiet form of bondage. It keeps you operating in the familiar, never demanding anything greater, never calling you to rise. Comfort whispers that what you have is enough, even when your spirit knows there's more. It convinces you that stretching is dangerous, that risking is reckless, that stepping out could cost you everything. The danger of comfort is that it creates a false sense of satisfaction. You start to believe that staying where you are is wisdom, when in reality, it's fear wearing a mask. Comfort teaches you how to avoid challenges instead of confront them. It builds fences around your faith and tells you that dreams are too far away, too hard to reach, too unrealistic. But the truth is, comfort is never concerned with destiny. It only wants to keep things the way they are. You were never created to live a life that's safe and predictable. The calling on your life will always pull you beyond what feels manageable. That tension you feel, the stretch, the discomfort, that's not a sign something's wrong. It's evidence that something greater is calling you forward. But the longer you stay in comfort, the more deaf you become to that call. You stop responding. You start settling. You confuse stillness with peace, but it's just stagnation. When comfort becomes the goal, growth becomes the casualty. You begin to shrink your goals, lower your standards, and settle into routines that require no faith. You no longer pray big, believe big, or act bold. You play it safe in relationships, in opportunities, and in dreams. But calling won't let you sleep. It keeps nudging you, even when you try to ignore it. It's not comfortable, but it's divine. It pushes you because it knows there's more in you. Comfort says, don't take that risk. You might fail. Calling says, take the step because you can't afford not to. Comfort wants your emotions pacified, your ego protected, and your image preserved. Calling cares nothing about appearances. It wants obedience, sacrifice, and transformation. One feeds your fear, the other grows your faith. They are both speaking, but the one you listen to will determine the future you live in. Too many people confuse peace with comfort, but peace is the result of alignment with purpose, not avoidance of discomfort. Comfort numbs you, it makes you passive, it distracts you with entertainment, busy work, and ease. It gives you just enough pleasure to keep you from noticing the pain of potential wasted. But your calling is not satisfied with maintenance. It demands motion. It wants your full surrender, not your partial participation. When you start choosing comfort over calling, you begin to lose the edge that makes you sharp. You stop pressing in prayer. Stop chasing your vision. Stop standing up when it gets hard. Your life starts to revolve around what's predictable, not what's powerful. You avoid change not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. And in doing so, you allow comfort to rob you of courage, to silence your convictions, and to delay your destiny. Comfort creates habits of hesitation. It trains you to second-guess every prompt that leads to growth. It has a voice that sounds reasonable, but it's rooted in fear. It will tell you that tomorrow is better, that next week makes more sense, that someone else should go first. And while it sounds logical, what it's really doing is locking you into cycles of limitation. The longer you listen, the quieter your calling becomes, until eventually you forget how to hear it. No one is coming to rescue you, and that's not a reason to fear. It's a reason to wake up. Too many people are sitting in places they hate, waiting for someone else to do the heavy lifting, waiting for a leader, a friend, a mentor, a breakthrough, a handout, or even a miracle, when what's really needed is movement. It's easier to blame silence on others than to admit we've been quiet too long. But the moment you stop waiting, you start changing. The belief that someone else will fix it for you is comforting, but it's dangerous. It teaches you to depend on what was never supposed to sustain you. You begin to lower your effort because you expect someone else to raise your outcome. You slow your momentum because you're convinced a rescue is on the way. But no one can step into your shoes and walk out your assignment. No one can breathe life into what only you were called to build. Help is not the same as rescue. People can support you, encourage you, even open doors, but they can't carry the weight of your obedience. They don't have your vision. They weren't given your specific burden. The truth is, God places vision in individuals, not committees. That means there's something in you that no one else can steward, no matter how much they love you. If you're always waiting for someone to pull you out, you'll never learn how to stand on your own. There's a strength that only comes when you stop depending on external rescue. It's forged in the fire of struggle, when your knees hit the floor and your spirit cries out for direction. It's built in the moments when you realize that no one's coming to save you from the hard work, the healing, or the discipline. That's when power begins to rise from within you. It doesn't look flashy, but it's real. It doesn't scream, but it doesn't quit. Sometimes you feel overlooked, not because people don't care, but because they're not assigned to your rescue. Some battles are custom designed to build your character, not your comfort. And no one can shortcut that process for you. You're not being ignored, you're being trained. The silence is developing your strength. The waiting is preparing your wisdom. But if you keep expecting someone else to do what only you can do, you'll miss the entire lesson. People can point the way, but they can't walk the path. They can give you advice, but they can't give you discipline. And too often we treat advice like a solution when it's only a spark. You still have to light the fire. You still have to make the move. You still have to do the work. There is no substitute for your own effort, no escape from personal responsibility. The dream is yours. The calling is yours. The assignment is yours. The longer you wait for someone to save you, the more you delay your own transformation. You were never meant to be a spectator in your own life, watching others rescue you from the sidelines. At some point, you have to rise. You have to get tired of waiting, tired of repeating cycles, tired of handing your power to people who were never meant to hold it. The clock is ticking, and your future isn't waiting for another excuse. This isn't about isolation, it's about responsibility. You're not alone, but you are accountable. You are responsible for what you do with your pain, with your potential, with your purpose. You can't pass that off to anyone else. It's not anyone else's job to fix what you refuse to face. When you finally decide to stop waiting and start working, you'll discover that you never needed rescue, you needed resolve. Discipline is louder than motivation, because motivation whispers when life gets loud. But discipline keeps marching. Motivation is a feeling. It rises and falls with your mood, your environment, and your circumstances. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline shows up when it's raining, when it's hard, when no one claps, and when nothing's working. Motivation starts the race, but discipline finishes it. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a reason. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the flame that stays lit when the wind blows. It's easy to be excited when everything is fresh and new, but the fire dies down when routine kicks in. Discipline is what steps in when excitement walks out. It's the internal engine that keeps running even when the emotions run dry. It's not about hype. It's about habits. And habits are built in silence, in repetition, in commitment that doesn't get posted or praised. When you're motivated, you dream. When you're disciplined, you build. Dreams without discipline stay in your head. They never touch reality. But when you have discipline, your actions catch up with your vision. You stop waiting for inspiration and start creating it. You stop wishing and start working. You don't just write goals, you grind for them. Discipline doesn't need perfect timing or perfect conditions. It just needs consistency. Discipline speaks through decisions. It doesn't have to scream to be powerful. It shows up in what you say no to, in what you wake up early for, in what you push through even when it's uncomfortable. Motivation wants comfort, but discipline embraces the stretch. It knows that growth doesn't happen when things are easy. It happens in resistance, in repetition, and in doing the thing you don't feel like doing until it becomes who you are. Motivation loves the crowd. Discipline is built in the quiet. While others are celebrating the start, discipline is planning how to finish. It's not emotional, it's intentional. It doesn't chase moments, it creates momentum. That's why so many people fall off track. They waited for the next motivational high, but discipline doesn't depend on feelings. It depends on follow-through. And follow-through separates winners from wishers. The reason so many people stop is because they thought motivation was enough. But real transformation requires something deeper. It requires structure, sacrifice, and a system that keeps you focused when feelings fade. Discipline makes you do it even when the hype is gone. It makes you accountable to your future, not your mood. It's not loud, but it's lasting. It works when you don't want to. It leads when nothing else will. You don't rise because you're inspired. You rise because you're anchored. Discipline anchors you. It reminds you of your why. When your want to disappears, it doesn't negotiate with laziness. It doesn't excuse inconsistency. It trains you to keep going, not just when it's exciting, but especially when it's not. That's how discipline builds strength. It doesn't give you a break when you're tired. It gives you direction when you're distracted. Discipline creates identity. What you do over and over again becomes who you are. It redefines your limits. It reshapes your habits. It renews your mindset. When you live by discipline, you stop being controlled by emotions. You take authority over your time, your energy, and your purpose. And even if no one sees your progress today, discipline ensures they will see your results tomorrow. You owe it to you to rise. Not for applause, not for validation, but because you were never meant to stay low. There's a version of you that hasn't yet been seen, a strength inside you that life hasn't fully drawn out. Every time you ignore that quiet pull to rise, you teach yourself that settling is acceptable. But deep down, you know it isn't. You weren't built for average. You were built for impact, for purpose, for something far beyond the ordinary. No one else can rise for you. They can encourage you, pray for you, and even push you. But only you can make the decision to get up. There comes a point when you stop blaming your past. Stop waiting for approval and stop shrinking yourself to fit environments that no longer deserve you. You owe yourself the truth that you've played small long enough, that hiding no longer serves you, and that it's time to show up. You've cried over it, thought about it, prayed about it, but now it's time to move. Healing doesn't mean you wait until everything is perfect. Rising means you bring your scars with you and walk anyway. The pain didn't come to break you, it came to wake you. You owe it to you to use what tried to bury you as the very thing that lifts you. Every setback was a setup for this moment, where you finally stopped doubting your worth. Somewhere along the way, you forgot who you were. Life dimmed your light. Disappointment silenced your voice, but there's still a spark. You feel it every time you see someone walking boldly in their lane and something inside you whispers, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That whisper isn't random, it's a reminder. A call to rise again, to take ownership, to reclaim your power and become what you've been carrying inside all along. You can't keep waiting for someone to see your value before you believe it. You set the standard for how the world treats you by how you treat yourself. If you stay low, don't be surprised when others overlook you. Rising isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's choosing to live like you believe you're chosen. It's accepting that the time for hiding is over and the season for rising is now, not next week, not next year, now. You've survived enough. Now it's time to build. Rising means showing up when it's inconvenient. It means speaking when it's easier to stay silent. It means walking into rooms that intimidate you because you know you belong there. You owe it to you to stop shrinking your dreams just because they make other people uncomfortable. The assignment wasn't given to them. It was given to you. And it's time to rise and carry it out. There's a cost to staying low. You lose confidence. You delay purpose. You drift further from the version of you that your future is waiting on. Every time you choose fear over faith, delay over discipline, you tell your purpose to wait. But purpose is impatient. It won't stay quiet forever. Eventually, you either rise to meet it or you watch it pass you by. And you owe it to yourself to be the one who answered the call. Rising doesn't mean you won't feel fear. It means you do it anyway. It means you wake up with intention. You walk with clarity. You speak with authority. You don't wait for permission to be powerful. You recognize that your life is too important to be wasted on excuses, too valuable to be wasted on silence. Every breath you take is proof that you're still here for a reason, and that reason is bigger than playing small. So this year, 2025, let it be the year you stop apologizing for being gifted. Let it be the year you silence doubt with discipline. Let it be the year you stop begging for purpose and start building it brick by brick, prayer by prayer, step by step, because you owe it to you to rise above average. You owe it to you to become the version of yourself you were always meant to be. And you owe it to the world to let your light shine, not dim it for anyone. So get up. Wipe your face, square your shoulders, and take back what fear tried to steal. You owe it to you, and this is the year you collect. Now go get it.